When you install Excel, it arrives with a few hundred decisions already made for you. The zeros disappear from the front of your invoice numbers. Your pivot tables group dates without you asking. The search field takes up half the header, covering the file name. Today, we're taking some of those decisions back. I've got 15 defaults that drive people up the wall, and for each one, the exact setting to change. You can download the free cheat sheet from the description, so the menu paths are always to hand. Okay, let's get into it. We'll start with the one that costs people more lost time than any other default in Excel. You type something perfectly valid, and Excel quietly corrects it into something else. Say you're entering a 16-digit account number. You hit enter, and Excel rounds it off and shows it in scientific format. Or you typed a product code, and Excel decides you obviously meant the 1st of May and turns it into a date, wiping out your text. For years, the fix was to format the cell as text first, or type the apostrophe before typing your text and force Excel to retain the format you wanted all along. But now you can stop the conversion at the source, saving you the hassle. Go to the File tab, down at the bottom, Options. Under Data, scroll to the bottom. Under Automatic Data Conversion, there's a handful of checkboxes here. I'm going to turn off Remove Leading Zeros, keep the first 15 digits, and convert continuous letters and numbers to a date. And now let's try again. Now your data stays exactly as you typed it. One heads up though, so it doesn't catch you off guard. Because Excel is treating these as text now, you might see these little green triangles in the corner. If I hover over it, you can see it thinks it's a number stored as text and I probably want to fix it. And that's expected, and it's the perfect thing to fix next. I know these little green triangles irritate many Excel users, with Excel insisting something's wrong. As we saw, it can represent numbers stored as text, or formulas that omit adjacent cells, and sometimes it's helpful, but often, like when you deliberately store account numbers as text, it's just visual noise. To tell Excel to stop flagging the things you don't care about, go back into the options. Now we're going to be using this a lot, so let's use the keyboard shortcut Alt-F-T to go straight into Options. And then under Formulas, scroll to the bottom, we've got Error Checking Rules. Untick the specific rules that keep nagging you, like numbers formatted as text, preceded by an apostrophe, and leave the ones that you find useful. Click OK, and now your cells go quiet, and you stop reaching for Ignore Error 50 times a day. If you opened a new workbook in the last year or two and thought, this font looks different, you're not imagining it. Microsoft replaced Calibri, the default for about 15 years, with a new font called Aptos Narrow. Plenty of people find it harder to read. The good news is you're not stuck with it. Alt-F-T to open Excel options. On the General tab, in the second group, when creating new workbooks, you can change the font here to anything you want. If you prefer Calibri, Arial, or maybe you have a company font, choose the one you want, set the size, and click OK. New workbooks will now open in your preferred font. One catch worth knowing because it trips people up. If you right-click, create a copy of this worksheet and move it to another workbook, and the font springs back to Aptos, that's the theme fighting you. The quick fix is to go to the Page Layout tab, under Fonts, choose Office 2013 to 2022, which rolls the whole workbook, charts included, back to Calibri in one go. You build a clean summary or dashboard, and those pale grey grid lines make the whole thing look like a work in progress rather than a finished report. Go to the View tab and uncheck the box for grid lines. Instantly, your report reads as deliberate and polished, the kind of thing you'd be happy to send to a client or your boss. And if you want to go one step further, head to the Page Layout tab and add a subtle background. You can choose a file you already have or create one with AI like I did for this. Clean visuals can make a real difference to that first impression for your reports. If you've worked with Excel formulas, you've probably written a formula that references a table, and instead of the cell references, you've got these names appearing. These are the table's structured references. Now, full disclosure, I actually love structured references. They make formulas readable and they expand automatically as your table grows. So before anyone types in the comments, yes, they're genuinely useful. But if you find them confusing or you're teaching someone who does, you can switch back to the familiar A1 style. Alt-F-T to open the options. Then under Formulas, in the second group, you can uncheck Use Table Names in Formulae. Click OK. Now when you write the formula, you get the cell references that you expected all along. If your file lives on OneDrive or SharePoint, AutoSave is on by default, and every change you make is saved every few seconds, whether you meant it or not. So if you open last month's finished report and tweak a few numbers just to test an idea, and then close it, with AutoSave on, those test edits are already baked into your original, and the clean version is gone. To be fair, AutoSave is brilliant when you actually want it, but having it on for everything by default can be annoying. So you can make AutoSave off the default and flip it on when you want it. Go into Options, Alt-FT, under Save, deselect AutoSave files stored in the cloud by default. Now files will open with AutoSave off, and you decide when changes get committed. Quick pause. The fact that you're still here, changing settings most people never touch, tells me you want to be good at Excel. If that's you, you'll get a lot out of my Excel Expert course. It's the proper structured path I wish I'd had. Lessons with practice files, and me supporting and mentoring you through the parts that usually take people years to piece together on their own. You'll find the link to the course in the description and pinned comment. When you insert a pivot table, Excel builds it in the compact layout with subtotals on the top and row labels stacked into one column. So every single time you do the same little dance, you go to the Design tab, you change the layout to tabular, and you move the subtotals to the bottom of the group. And it all adds up. Instead, let's Alt-FT and go into Options and fix it once and for all. Under Data, first item is Make changes to the default layout of PivotTables. Let's do that. In here, you can import a layout if you spent time formatting a pivot table just the way you want. Import it and save yourself a load of hassle. Otherwise, you can choose the settings here. I want subtotals at the bottom of the group, and I want it in a tabular form. Click OK and OK, and now every pivot table from now on arrives in your preferred layout from the very first click. And a quick bonus, if you're on 365, your pivot table values now inherit the number formatting from the source data automatically, so that's one more manual step gone. While we're on pivot tables, there's another default that ruins your report layouts. It's auto-fit column widths on update. Here I have two pivot tables. The columns are the width I want, the formatting's tidy, everything lines up. But if I refresh those pivot tables, Excel decides to help by resizing the columns, and just like that, my layout is ruined. To stop this, right-click inside the pivot table and go into Options and deselect Auto Fit Column Widths on Update. Let's repeat that for the top one. Pivot Table Options, Auto Fit Column Widths on Update. Now if I resize my columns and refresh all, my column widths stay exactly where I put them. This is especially important for dashboard reports. One more thing with pivot tables. Have you noticed when you add a date field, the pivot table automatically groups the dates? Now it can be super handy, but if it's not what you want, you can Ctrl-Z to undo it. Or if you never want the dates grouped for you, you can turn it off in the Options, Alt-FT. Under Data, check the box for Disable Automatic Grouping of Date Time columns in pivot tables. By default, copy something and Excel forgets the previous thing you copied. So when you need to paste several different items into several different places, you're stuck flicking back and forth. Copy, paste, copy, paste. There's a better way that almost nobody uses. On the Home tab, click the tiny launcher button in the bottom right of the clipboard group. This opens the Office clipboard, which conveniently stores up to 24 copied items at once. Let's say you've broken a formula down into a few steps to make it easier to write, and now you're ready to combine them. We'll start by copying each piece. I'm going to select the formula, excluding the equal sign at the start, Ctrl-C, and now it's on my clipboard. Let's go to the next one, select the formula, Ctrl-C, and one more time for the last component, Ctrl-C. Now that we've got each component, I can start a new formula. The first section of my formula will be this part. Just click on it once on the clipboard and it pastes it in. Minus, I want the weekday, but instead of the weekday referencing step 2, I'm going to select that part and delete it and insert this calculation. And that's it. Press enter. And now I have a single formula that calculates the first Monday in each month. Without the clipboard, it would have been tedious. What's even better is the clipboard works across apps. You can copy text from Outlook, a figure from Word, an image from your browser, and they're all going to sit in this clipboard waiting for you, ready for when you need them. When you open Excel, by default you don't land on a spreadsheet. You land on this start screen. It's a gallery of templates and recent files, and you have to click again just to get to the blank workbook you wanted in the first place. Now, if you'd rather Excel just get out of the way and open a blank sheet, Alt-FT to open the options. Under General, right at the bottom, uncheck Show the Start Screen when this application starts. Now, when you start Excel, a fresh workbook will be there for you, ready to type. If you use Microsoft Edge, downloaded Excel files default to opening in Excel for the web rather than your desktop app, which is genuinely frustrating when your file uses features that the web version doesn't support yet. So you end up clicking on Editing and opening Desktop, and it's a load of hassle. To fix it, in Edge, click on the three dots and go to Settings. Under Downloads, find the Open Office Files in Browser setting and turn it off. Now Edge will download your Excel, Word and PowerPoint files, and it will let you open them in the proper desktop app with all the features available. If you're using the latest version of Excel with Microsoft 365, you may have noticed Copilot trying to help you write formulas. For beginners, this might be helpful, but for a lot of Excel users, it can actually slow you down. So Alt-FT to go into Options. Under the Copilot tab, you can deselect Show Copilot Suggestions for completing formulae and Show Copilot Suggestions for formulas based on patterns in your content. Now, you'll only see this Copilot menu if the file that you've opened is saved in OneDrive or SharePoint and you have AutoSave enabled. So with that off, you can happily write formulas yourself without Copilot getting in the way. If you have Microsoft 365, there's a big search box at the top of all Office apps. I don't know anyone who uses it despite its prominent location. And what's super annoying is it often overlaps the file name to the left, so I can't read it. The file name's important to know when you're working with files that have version numbers appended to the end. Now, thankfully, Alt-FT into the options, and under General, we can check the box to collapse the Microsoft search box by default. And now you can see the file name, and the search box is reduced to this small magnifying glass icon, like it should be. This last one isn't strictly Excel related. If you use File Explorer to navigate your folders and open files, it's super frustrating not seeing the file extension. Plus, it's a security risk not knowing the file type. Sure, you can change the view to show the details, but it's much quicker to see the file type at the end of the file name at a glance. Thankfully, there's an easy fix in Windows 11. Click on the View drop-down, under Show, choose File Name Extensions, and now you can browse through your files knowing the file type, and you're not at risk of opening a file that says it's a PDF when it's actually an executable file containing a virus. Most of Excel's defaults were set by someone who's never seen your spreadsheet. A few clicks and suddenly Excel is working for you. Don't worry about memorizing them. The free cheat sheet is linked in the description, and it has everyone with its exact menu path ready whenever you need it. But turning off the annoying stuff is only half of it. The other half is the small tricks that make you faster. The ones nobody teaches you when you're starting out. So you only discover them years later and think, why did no one show me this sooner? I've put my favorites into this video so you don't have to wait years to find them. I'll see you there.